Well, folks, I got some bad news about my current recording project and maybe my relationship with this Tascam Model 12. I was just working on some tracking, trying to add some lead guitar stuff. Then some strange things started to happen. I wish I could show them to you, but I can't replicate them for reasons I'll soon explain. First, when I tried to record a regular mic signal the way that I normally would, I just got white noise. Extraordinarily loud white noise is what was recorded at the track, even though that's not what I could hear through the monitoring of what I intended to record. Then I tried to overwrite that, and I did successfully record a real sound, but then everything stopped. I got an error message of some kind. It was just here on, the menu of the Model 12. None of the buttons worked, so I had no choice but to turn off the device and turn it back on. And when I turned it back on, it did not reopen to my prior song session. And now when I go to my current song project, still there in the load screen, and try to open it, I get a file error. I don't get an error when I try to open any of the other songs, sessions on this device. There isn't much about this in the manual for the Model 12. There's a table on one page at the back of the manual that has a list of possible errors. And for all of them, it just says, turn the device off and back on. And if the error doesn't go away, return to your dealer, the dealer from which I bought like a Guitar Center. They're not going to be able to help me with this, or contact Tascam customer support. I fear that means that I've got like a file corruption or other problem that may render this entire session inaccessible. That is extremely disappointing. There's still one thing I can try. I'm going to take the SD card out of the Model 12. I'm going to plug it into my computer, and maybe if I save the problem files and all the others, reformat the SD, and then copy them back into the SD card, maybe I can salvage the session. But before I do that, I have to go on a little rant. It's only been a couple of weeks since the passing of Steve Albini, the great producer and recording engineer. One of his favorite topics to discuss, or at least one that he was asked about all the time in interviews, is why he continued to use analog tape for recording in what is obviously a digital age. And he offered, I think, great in-depth answers based on decades of experience making records of music. I use the word records very specifically. He wanted the preservation, the record, to last as long as possible. And in his experience, tape is the medium that has lasted the longest. He would talk about digital formats and watching them come and go, and sort of allude to horror stories about people losing really important work because it had been in a format that wasn't supported anymore, or maybe became corrupted. And to think that some combination of the inner workings of this Model 12 or the specific things that I was doing in this project may have collided and caused this to become corrupted is just infuriating. And I like the Model 12. I like it a lot better than the Tascam 424 that's sitting over there. But god damn it, I've never had anything like this happen with a 424. I've never had it eat tape or weird magnetization issues. I've never had any issues. It just records shit, and then that shit lives on the tape. It might not be hi-fi, it might not be perfect, but what it is real. It exists. It's not going anywhere. Whereas this session that I am very proud of and that I have worked really hard on may have gone somewhere. So, Steve, if you're watching up there, I guess you could have told me so. Okay, rant complete. Let's see if I can salvage this thing. Looks like I have something for all of my sessions. What is this? Wait a minute. Okay, it would appear that I do have a WAV file of everything that I've recorded, with one exception. I was recording to track 5 when things went haywire, and that track is I've lost almost everything, really everything except what I had just recorded. Hi, it's Future Jordan. For the rest of this video to make sense, I feel like I should show you in detail what I found in the MTR folder on my SD card. Here are the files that were in that folder. First, you see 12 WAV files, one associated with each track on the Model 12. Then there's a file called song.sys, and there are 12, actually 13 .bin files. For this video to make sense, let's focus on the WAV files. They are audio files, one file per track. Notice I didn't say one file per take. Some of those tracks consisted of only one take, but some of them consisted of many, many takes. But you don't see those many takes in individual files, you see them in one composited file for the track that you've been recording to, and that gets played back when you're using the Model 12. Most of the tracks are roughly the same size because they are roughly the same length, a length that corresponds with the length of the song. There's one exception, and that's track number 5. As you can see, it's much smaller than the other tracks, but it really shouldn't be. At least it wouldn't be if the Model 12 had worked the way it was supposed to work. Because when my system crashed, I wasn't recording fresh to track 5, I was just overdubbing something at the very beginning of the track. I had already laid down recordings throughout the rest of the song on that track, and a real, correct, composite WAV file for track 5 would have included all of that and probably been between 37 and 39 megabytes in size. This file isn't, and that's what makes it suspicious. But I'm hoping that after I make a copy of this, I can reformat this SD card, make a copy of the session back into the SD card, and then continue work. Okay, next step is to take this thing, plug it back into the Model 12, and reformat it. System. Let's switch display, initialize. Media format? I guess I'm going to erase. Erase all data. Are you sure? Yeah. Alright, let's take this thing back and put a song on it. And there it is. It looks like we have all the files I was expecting. Plugging it back in. Wrong way. It's always the wrong way. Okay. Come on. Song? Will you look at that? Load. Oh, well, that's disappointing. I wonder what the other files are that are living in the MTR folder. Maybe if I clean up some of those. Like, for example, I'm wondering what would happen if I deleted that really short file on track 5, since that's where the problem started. Okay, now I've deleted the truncated file. Come on, I can never put this in the right way. The truncated file that was saved for track 5. Oh, shit. Let's play. What do we got? Do you hear that? I'm so relieved. Wait a minute. All right, let's go see if we can, let's go to the end. Oh, no. Just go to the end. What do we got? What do we got? Sorry, you're really close to a speaker. This is the part where song, we save. Oh, we did it, guys. We saved the session for my song Old Flame. We had to sacrifice what remained of track 5, but we're back on safe ground. And what have we learned? I guess we've learned a few things. The first is that you can find a workaround for the file error that you might receive when trying to load a song session on the Model 12. In my case, at least, the solution was to take out the SD card, plug it into a computer or an iPad works, right? Anything that can read the SD card, and go into the MTR folder. We learned that not only does that contain WAV files, like just standalone WAV files of all the tracks that you've been working with and recording on the Model 12, but that you may be able to cure the error by getting rid of one or more of those files. As I went through the WAV files for each track, I noticed that the WAV file for track 5, which is the track to which I was recording when this issue arose, was unusually small, seemed to be missing a bunch of data. Once I deleted that file, I was able to open up the song in the Model 12 without issue. In the absence of that file, there is no recording allocated to track 5. I'm going to have to make a new one, but at least I have everything else that I've done. Speaking of everything else, there are other files in the MTR folder for each song. One is like a .sys file, and I don't know what that means, but sys or system seems kind of important, so I didn't mess with that at all. I did, however, at a couple of different stages, delete all of the .bin files that were in that folder for this particular song session, and that seems to have had no effect on either the error that I was trying to avoid or on the ability of this device to play back the real shit that I had recorded. And that kind of makes sense because those .bin files or temp files, they're backups of things that you have done on each of these tracks. I don't need those backups. I don't really care about them. In fact, I thought that kind of stuff got wiped every time I turned off this device, so I'm not worried about having lost it. This is all good to know, but I think the coolest thing is that there are WAV files of each of these tracks just living and easily accessible on that SD card. That means that it's much easier to back up a session that you're working on than it was on my other digital Portastudios, where you had to use an export function to create a WAV file of either the entire mix down of a session or even of individual tracks. Knowing that I don't have to deal with that extra step and knowing now that things can go horribly wrong, I probably will back up my sessions more regularly. I keep hearing a sound. It seems like a squeaking sound. It might be from a tree branch scratching against the shed. It also might be from a rodent of some kind. I'm convinced that I have rodents living in the shed. They didn't cause this damage to the amplifier, but there is rodent shit all over the place over here. This is actually a rat trap. Hoping to catch something. Oh, there's one up there too. Okay, I'm totally losing my train of thought here. I'm going to blame it on the relief that I feel at having recovered this session. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you learned something from this, or you could just enjoy my misfortune. I hope to at some point finish this song and share it with you, but this is not that point. I have more work to do. But until that point, take care of yourselves. I hope you're doing well, and I'll see you around.